If you ask people the question, what was the happiest moment of your life? Most will mention such events as the day I was married, when my first child was born, the day my best friend recovered from cancer, the birth of a niece or nephew, that longed-for trip to Ireland back home to the family. Certainly there are many others, but it seems that the happiest moments of our lives always involve other people. Seldom are our happiest moments experienced alone. So, if our happiest moments in life are about being with others in intimate and loving ways, then could it be that we are simply made for each other? Could it be then that our gifts and talents are not really private property, but essential resources in order for the community to thrive? Could it be that we are made by our Creator to be in relationship and not simply to be lone adventurers in this world? Our Hebrew brothers and sisters have a very special way of coming together to help people deal with pain and loss and grief. They call it Shiva, which means 7 or sits of 7. When there's a death, the closest family members come together. The father and mother, the brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, the spouses, they come together and they sit. But they don't sit alone. All the friends and family come and sit with them. And they sit until the healing begins. They sit because they want you to know that you are not alone in your sorrow. They sit together for 7 days. And on the 7th day, the entire community comes together and they walk the family around the block. And there's a very subtle message that is given when the community gathers and walks the family around the block. It says to them, you can begin to live again. We know that you hurt and we hurt with you, but there can be and there will be healing. Life is relational. Life is all about community. And this, my friends, is the message that your church challenges us with on Trinity Sunday. That we are not alone in this world, that we must navigate this world together. Now, we just finished our Easter season last week with Pentecost, and during those great weeks of Easter, we heard John's gospel of the vine and branches, our connection to the vine and our interconnection as branches. Last week, if you happened to be here, I used the example of whitewater rafting on the Zambezi River, the most vicious whitewater rapids in the world. And if you're courageous enough to go whitewater rafting on the Zambezi, your guide will say to you, when the raft tips. He will not say if, he will say when the raft tips, stay in the rough waters, because you'll be tempted to swim to the sides where it looks like it's calm, but it's stagnant. And in the stagnant waters, there are powerful, strong, and hungry crocodiles, and they will get you. And I talked about last week Pentecost giving us the courage to stay in those rough waters, empowering that spirit that empowers us from deep within. So we put all these Easter readings together. The vine revealed to us by Jesus calls each one of us to be the branches to bear good fruit. And we are not left on the lurch. We are not left alone because we have the Spirit that gives us courage. The courage to be a community that bears good fruit. The courage to realize that what we have what it takes to care about each other. Trinity Sunday is a celebration and a reminder of our interconnectedness, that we are made for each other and that we are called to watch out for each other. Especially, the strong are called to watch out for the weak. Unfortunately, a very different message has been given to the people of the Western world for many years now. And that message that's been given to us is that everyone for themselves. The message that's been given to us is, I am not my brother's keeper. The message that's been given to us, it's not about the common good, it's about my good and my family's good and my country's good. That is not the gospel message. That is not the message of Jesus. Simply, it is not. Novelist and essayist and farmer Wendell Berry has a very unique image for the perils of individualism. As he was walking with his friend Wes Jackson, they observed a plot of Maximilian sunflowers. Now, if you're familiar with Maximilian sunflowers, it's a nearly 10-foot tall plant that's native to the Midwest. Well, Wes Jackson pointed out one particular plant that was growing all alone by itself, disconnected from the community of the other sunflowers. Wendell Berry observed that although this solo individualistic plant had grown very tall, it was clearly not healthy. The blossoms were thick and heavy, so heavy that the branches were starting to strain and break under the weight. Berry noted this. He said, in one sense, that plant had succeeded as a solo plant. After all, it was growing and it was unusually tall. But unfortunately, it had completely failed its intended purpose. Its purpose as a Maximilian sunflower. You see, these flowers thrive only when they're together in a community. They grow only with others, not in isolation. So Berry concluded this. He said, we could say that achieving success solely as an individual was the plant's failure. It had failed because it had lived outside an important part of its definition, which consists of individuality and its community. A part of its healthy potential lay in its community, not just in itself. For Wendell Berry, so many people today are lonely and isolated because we've lost a very simple biblical truth. And the simple biblical truth is this, that true health spiritually, emotionally, and physically is found in community. And we've forgotten that to speak of the health of an isolated individual is a contradiction in terms. So these last few weeks, as we've heard those great Easter readings of God as the vine, revealed to us by Jesus, who left us the Spirit, from which comes the courage that we need to be a strong and compassionate and caring people, I think we all realize that the world needs courage desperately these days. husbands and wives, parents, educators, politicians, leaders in business, religious leaders. Because it's not if, as I said last week, it is when our raft tips over, and it will do so many times in our lives. We have to fight that temptation to swim to the shores, because the crocodiles wait in the stagnancy, and the stagnancy is destructive. So if we stay in the rough water together, we can avoid becoming stagnant. We can avoid disaster. Our Hebrew brothers and sisters teach us a great lesson. On the seventh day of Shiva, the entire community comes out and they walk the grieving family around the block. No one goes it alone. And that's why life is able to continue on.